Oh wow, my screen automatically dimmed and I can see the keyboard while my display is still anchored over there. This is awesome.
These are two of the most interesting display glasses you can buy right now. The XREAL 1S costs $449. The RayNeo Air 4 Pro costs $299. In a lot of people's minds, these glasses are a lot closer than the price difference suggests, and having owned both of these now for a while, today I'll answer the question of which one I would actually tell a real buyer to spend money on and whether the XREAL is really worth $150 more. To me, the answer is pretty clear, and I'll tell you this right now. The better product and the one I'd actually buy are not the same glasses. I'm going to break this down across the three things most people actually use these for: movies, gaming, and productivity. Let's start with what I think is the number one use case for glasses like these: watching movies and shows. In my experience, the RayNeo Air 4 Pro gave me the better pure display. It's brighter, more vivid, and in my testing, the image just looked more impressive right away. If you put both of these on and watch the same scene back to back, I think a lot of people would actually prefer what they see through the RayNeo. In my testing, the HDR10 clearly did make a difference. The RayNeo screen looked brighter and more vivid to me, and it was pretty obvious. So, why then does the XREAL still win for movies overall, in my opinion? Well, mostly because of electrochromic dimming, and to a lesser extent, anchor mode. Electrochromic dimming lets you darken the lenses with a button press across three levels, and in practice, that somewhat transforms the experience. The outside world fades away, and the XREAL starts to feel more like a theater setup. The RayNeo doesn't have that. It comes with clip-on light blockers, which is better than nothing, but it's not the same thing as the lenses themselves dimming electronically. And anchor mode means you can lock the screen in space so it stays put when your head moves around. On the RayNeo, the screen follows you everywhere. For longer movie watching sessions, that head following behavior might feel less relaxing since you can't take a break. The XREAL also gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of image size and distance, along with a widescreen mode and 3D conversion. So here's my honest take on movies. The RayNeo has the better display. The XREAL just has arguably the better overall movie watching experience. To be clear, I still do not think the XREAL is some magical cinema on your face experience. But between these two, it gives the better movie setup for most people's needs. Now, let's talk about productivity, because this is where the $150 price jump starts to make a lot more sense and where I think there's a clearer winner. The XREAL 1S has anchor mode. You can pin the screen in space, adjust the size, adjust the distance, and use it like a real monitor. Now, I'll be honest, in my original XREAL 1S review, I said anchor mode didn't impress me that much. And I stand by that as a movie or gaming feature. It's nice, but it's not a deal breaker for casual use. But for productivity, it completely changes the picture. Because without anchor mode, you're wearing a screen that moves every time you look at your keyboard. That's what the RayNeo gives you, a screen that follows your head. Fine for watching something passively, genuinely frustrating when you're trying to get work done. Another very cool feature in anchor mode, the XREAL has an auto transparency feature that lets the lenses go clear when you're not actively watching.
Oh wow, my screen automatically dimmed and I can see the keyboard while my display is still anchored over there. This is awesome.
So you can glance around without taking the glasses off. That's actually a useful touch I didn't fully appreciate until later. The trade-off: text clarity. I tested both side by side with the same source, the same page, and the same setup. Text on the RayNeo seems to be clearer and crisper than the XREAL and also has lesser edge blur. This does not mean the XREAL is unusable, but it is something that I think the RayNeo has an advantage in. But here is the thing. Even with the text clarity edge, the RayNeo still loses on productivity because I believe anchor mode matters more than the marginal difference in sharpness when you're actually working on the two devices. A slightly crisper screen that moves every time you look down is still worse than a stable screen you can actually work on. Gaming is where things get a little more mixed again. Both of these work well with the kinds of devices people actually care about: handhelds, laptops, phones, and console style setups if you have the right accessories. And this is really the split. If you care more about pure visual punch, the RayNeo makes a real case. If you care more about flexibility and features, the XREAL again has more going on. The XREAL 1S gives you more options where gaming is concerned. Similar to the movie setup, you can control the size and distance of the screen and even use 3D for gaming. To me, gaming was a better use case for the screen flexibility that the XREAL provides. I was able to make the screen large and feel like I was immersed in the game more so than the RayNeo. The RayNeo, on the other hand, is simpler. Fewer tricks, fewer controls. Don't overcomplicate things. One thing to call out from my testing, I did notice that follow mode on the XREAL feels a little laggier than the RayNeo. The RayNeo just feels cleaner and more immediate. And then there's the comfort side. The RayNeo definitely feels lighter and more comfortable for an extended gaming session. If you care more about screen quality, immediate responsiveness, and comfort, I think the RayNeo makes the better first case. But if you care more about immersion, screen size, and flexibility, the XREAL starts to make more sense. For me, this one was closer than I expected. Here are my quick takes on build, comfort, and daily use. The XREAL feels more premium overall. Better case, a more polished presentation, and fewer cost-cutting vibes than the RayNeo. The RayNeo feels lighter, but it also feels a bit more plasticky. Not cheap exactly, just less premium. Audio-wise, XREAL has Bose tuning and RayNeo has Bang & Olufsen. In practice, both are open air, both leak sound, and both are good enough for casual use, but neither replaces headphones. So here is where I land. If you've been in XR glasses for a while and want options, screen size, distance, 3D, ultra-wide, EC dimming, anchor mode with auto transparency, the XREAL rewards that. It's a more sophisticated device and you'll feel that. If you're newer to this category or you just want a simple, great-looking screen without the learning curve, the RayNeo is the easier and honestly the better entry point. My personal pick, and the one I use most often, is actually the RayNeo Air 4 Pro, and that mostly comes down to my real use case. Most of the time, I want to plug in quickly, watch a TV show or movie at night, and not do a lot of tinkering. For that, the better screen, lower effort, and better comfort matter more to me than all the extra options that the XREAL gives you. If this helped, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.